reflex sights / red dots. There's so many of them out there, lots of options to choose from. Over the years, I've had the opportunity to try these 8 along with some others, and I thought I would pass along some of the lessons I've learned and some of my opinions as to what you may or may not want to look for when considering one of these things, because some of them are dirt cheap and some of them are really expensive. That's what's coming up next on GBGuns. So to start things off, how about some definitions? I consider these single screen, single piece of glass or plastic type sights to be reflex sights. The intent is whip it up and take an engagement. I consider red dot sights to be the ones that are in a tube that have a sealed compartment to them. They each have their advantage, disadvantage. This time we're talking about the single screen. These are mostly popular for handgun mounting or shotguns, but can also be used in other places. With that out of the way, how the heck do you pick one? Well, there's a couple things to go into consideration. Of course, price being one of them. Some of them are very, very affordable, like this 80E, which I believe you can get for around $50. And then there's the opposite of these RMRs, which, man, for $500, some of them are pretty crazy. And it's essentially all the same technology. You have an emitter in the back here that shines light onto the glass. That light bounces into your eye and projects a dot. So if it's all basically the same technology and a very simple even comparison across there, what other factors are there? For me, glass clarity is number one, tied very closely with the window size and how easy it is to see things. And what I'm going to do is I've got 2 boxes of ammo here, neither of these related to the optics industry, that have some different colors, and they're fairly matte. There's a little bit of shine on there, but we've got red, black, gold, white, a lighter gray, a dark gray, and a reflective red. And I'm going to pass these in front of the camera and try to keep them at the same distance with the dot on so we can look at the glass clarity and how it may distort or enhance some of the colors. Just like when you wear different colored glasses while driving or shooting, sometimes a color tinge or tint can help enhance what you're seeing and make it easier to see things. So with that out of the way, I'm not going to go in any particular order. Let's get started. I'm going to start with the 2 that are already mounted on a pistol, since I have to hold them at slightly different height. This is the Burris FASTFIRE 2, which follows a lot of very popular optics mounts, and so that's why it's been on this Q5 match. Now this one I've had around for years. As you can see, it's beat up. Simple on-off switch. You do have to remove it to replace the battery. The adjustment does have locks to keep things in place, and from the front we have a kind of a greenish tint. Looking through it, you can see the dot there, and you see it's got a blue tint over the wood. Now if I come over here to the gray, it's on that Varmageddon. Let's see if I cross in. You can see that blue kind of pops out. Now for some folks that can be an advantage or something they like because it draws the eye to the circle. For others, not so much. This is an auto brightness, which with my naked eye looks just fine through the camera there. It is a little bit dim while we're sitting between these 2 giant bulbs. As I move over to the darker colors, the dot becomes a little more apparent, and you can see it almost enhances the clarity or the definition on this dark high contrast Barnell box, whereas on the low contrast box of the Nosler, you lose that geography there. It's a pretty good size window, pretty decent dot, just looks a little washed out in the camera here, with a blue-green tint to the glass. That's the Burris FASTFIRE 2. And next is this one from ADE. I had never heard of these guys until it came with the EAA Gerson MC28 SATV. And looked it up online, and you can get them for $50 and under on Amazon. So I was a little concerned about its longevity. It does have a simple button, one button to push. It sits rather high, so that means your height over bore is potentially an issue. What that means is the angle that the dot is coming out at versus the bore. Where those intersect is where you zero. And the greater this distance, the narrower the ellipse is where those two line up. If you need more explanation on that, let me know, and I'm happy to walk you through it. But here's the ADE. We can see we've got kind of a reddish hue on the front, big screen. Looking through, this dot appears much more sharply with a blue-green tint on the glass there. We can still have some contrast between the lettering and the globe or the map here on the Varmageddon box coming over to the Barnaul box. Nice and clear. This is one of the things that really impressed me with this ADE when we got to the range, is that is really clear glass. The dot does disappear a little bit when we get onto the white. I'm sure cranking up the brightness on there would help, because when we shot this at the range we had no issues. So that gives you an idea of the ADE. And here we are with the classic RMR. This is a 6.5 MOA. Now when you're considering how big you want your dot to be, well, that comes down to a personal preference of balancing between precision and easy acquisition. 6.5 MOA is rather large. You can see the dot there on the wood, lots of blue-green tint. We can still see, it's a little tough to see that map. The metals appear pretty good. Coming over to the Barnaul, no issues there, can still faintly see it on the white. My complaint with the RMR is just the window size and that tint. Now, if it's a daily carry, then maybe you want a small window size to keep things smaller and easier to conceal. But that tint there, although you definitely know when your eye is looking through the glass, to me is, I don't know, I'm not a fan of it. It's a personal preference. So that's your classic Trijicon RMR with a 6.5 MOA dot. Next up here is a Redfield accelerator. Now, I believe these have been discontinued. They've been out there and around. I got it because a Redfield scope that I had years ago, the lens or the portion that holds onto the reticle broke, and the reticle became loose in the gun, and well, that kind of made it worthless. So I sent it in, and the good folks at Loopold, who own Redfield, by the way, said, sorry, we can't get you another one of these. How about some credit? So I took that and picked up one of these and have been using it off and on for years. It has a light sensor in the front to help adjust the brightness to what's coming at it. You can see we've got kind of a rainbow hue to the glass. It does have a couple brightness settings, very blue inside, and we can see we have sort of a smaller view like the RMR, partially because although the lens comes down this far, the projector takes up a lot of your view space. So even though we've got that blue-green lens, we can still clearly see the map on the Varmageddon. Over to the Barnaul, we got our brown there. You guys have no idea how difficult it is to look through a camera, looking through an optic, and keep things aimed and relevant and useful. So this is brightening up fairly well. Still able to see that red on the white, but it's a little bit of a haze to the glass, if you will. You notice that the Barnaul box itself gets kind of blurry once you're looking through it. Takes some of the detail out of your vision. That's the Redfield accelerator. If you have one of these still around and you're wondering how it relates to others, that's why I put it in here, or if you're considering picking up a used one. Next is the Nikon P Tactical SPUR. Now, I'm sure many of you have heard that they've gotten out of the rifle scope market, but these are still out there and they're quite affordable. Only downfall is, of course, that the mounting surface does not set up for any of the current pistol plates, so you basically can only use it with a pick rail. So you're looking for, this would be good for shotguns, PCPs, things like that. It does have that nice white light there, or line there, to help get your eye in the middle. Nice broad view. Glass is fairly clean. We can see a little bit of tint on the wood. No loss in the clarity of the globe on the Armageddon box. Good sharp dot. Lose it a little bit on the white of the Barnaul, but you can see there's not much of a change in the clarity looking at those boxes as this moves over it. Really good glass. I like the rectangular broad view because, as you may have noticed, that's kind of how humans focus. That's why TVs come in 16:9. That's why your phone is shaped the way it is. And that's why, well, this is shaped the way it is. So that's the Nikon P Tactical SPUR. Next up we have the Sightmark Mini Shot M Spec. And this thing really impressed me. Sightmark used to not have the greatest reputation. They've made a lot of changes. And I actually own 3 of these. And despite how inexpensive they are, I pulled the RMR off of a handgun to put this on there. And I'll show you why this is one of my favorites. First, we have that pseudo rectangular frame to it. You can see there's a slight hue to the glass and the coatings, but look how clear the glass is. It's a little green bluish, but we're not losing any of the globe on the Armageddon box. You can still see the dot over the red coming over to the gray. Everything's staying very crisp and sharp, and it's a nice large window. So if it's purely for reflexive purposes and you're not concerned about overall size, the Sightmark Mini Shot Pro has been one of my favorites as far as value optics. And that's the M Spec. This one is the newest in my arsenal. Picked this up from Optics Planet, where, by the way, you can probably find most of these. This is the SIG ROMEO 3, and you can tell it's quite large. It's a pick rail only. Of course, it does have a riser. You do have the shelf style battery tray, so you don't have to remove it to replace the battery. Looking at our glass, we can see we've got that same kind of red to green. And clarity's very good. It does have a greenish hue, not as pronounced as, say, the RMR. Very easily see the globe and the dot on the red of the Armageddon. Moving over to the darker colors. No issue, no real distortion. Clearly see the dot on the white. This has been a great one for throwing on your braced pistols, that kind of thing, maybe on a shotgun. It's a round window, but very large and keeps your eye focused in that general direction. It's a lot like looking through a traditional tube style without having the tube, obviously. So that is the ROMEO 3 from Sig Sauer. And this last guy is a relatively inexpensive. This is from Osprey Global, and this is obviously never going on a pistol. It's one of these, it's got red and green. It's got 4 different reticles that you can change, swap through. I just wanted to give it a try. Relatively inexpensive, but that glass, see, it's kind of a mirrored finish. Glass is probably the clearest of all of them. No distortion there, nice large window. Now that dot is as bright as I can get it, but if we swap over to green, you can see the green picks up very easily. Broad window, no issue with the contrast. It's kind of a little almost tinted. I like looking through glasses. See if I swap reticles, if you can see that's your circle dot. plus and a circled dot plus. I have not tested to see if the 0 remains true on all of these yet, but it's just something I can slap on. Simple Guns, very large here, but it does have the quick release mount, which I love, and very, very value priced for what you get from what I've seen. So that's the Osprey Global. So other factors, of course, are your battery life, your features, if it's got shake awake, things like that. Those are all, in my opinion, personal preferences. Sometimes short battery life means because the dot gets really bright, you know? And of course, if it's got super battery life, it might not have the best dot. Dot size is all about how quickly you want to grab it versus accuracy and your application. And then, of course, mounting comes down to your individual needs as well. So with all of those options, factors, and features being something that really is individual specific, I just wanted to go over showing you the glass quality and what the view is like through these. I hope this helps. I'd love to hear from you what you like and have used. Please comment on what you like and have used if you've used more than one, because of course it's easy to just have one, and then you don't have really any basis to say that, you know, one is, for example, the RMR might be your favorite, but you had no idea how small that window was compared to the Sightmark, or how blue and kind of shaded the glass is compared to the Sightmark. So let me know what your thoughts are. I hope this was helpful, since I know some of these cost a lot of money. Some of them are really cheap. Sometimes buying the inexpensive stuff works. For 22s and just playing around, we've had no issues with this Osprey. I'm about to step it up and start using it on bigger stuff to see how well it holds up. But yeah, hope this helps. That's 8 reflex optics for you. Thanks for watching.